Hey there. So this is my third iteration of wrist and hand mobility videos. You keep refining things as you go through life, and so I'm definitely a proponent of always get better. So that's what this video really is always getting better and learning more and more as you go through life. You probably want a couple pieces of equipment. The first piece of equipment is a lacrosse ball, or this is a yoga tune-up ball, something about the size of your fist. Okay, and then the second one is a golf ball, so it's slightly smaller by virtue. I'm on a yoga mat just for a little bit more comfort. I've also got an elevated surface. You can use a plyo box or a chair or something like that to help with this. So as we go through, we're going to start addressing the muscles and fascia through our forearm, first by rolling things. We're going to go through our hand, and we're also going to stretch all of this stuff along the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is address the back edge of my arm. So I'm going to start by putting the ball anywhere essentially from the elbow down towards the wrist. I'm going to place my other hand on top of my forearm, and I'm going to roll from that elbow towards the wrist. Ideally keeping that wrist suspended over the edge. When I find a hot spot, one of those spots where there's some good muscle tension or adhesion within the fascial tissues, I'm going to apply good steady pressure onto that ball to the point where I've got to breathe to work through that, and then I'm going to make some fists, clenching and opening my hand. I'm going to keep that fist closed, go through some circles counterclockwise and clockwise. Maybe just some flexion and extension and some deviation, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the hand open as well. And you can see I'm changing the angles that I'm doing these motions at as well. Okay, I typically want to address 3 or 4 points. You can see now that I'm rolling into the edges of things, so I've got to change those angles and get creative as we go through. Okay, so I repeat that process, so maybe 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, kind of going 3-dimensionally across that surface. So that attacks this end of things. The other edge, I'm going to actually use the last 3 or 4 inches of my elbow here to then tack and work through. So now as I'm moving through it, I find a good sore spot. It's going to be the same process. I'm going to apply good steady pressure into that spot. I'm going to make some fists. Open and close. Leave it closed. Make some circles. Deviate. Flex and extend. Do the same thing with my hand open as well. Cool. Again, same idea. I'm going to get kind of 2 or 3 points through that forearm to get into those tissues. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some of the stretching for these areas. The most important thing is that anytime we're in this support position, we want our fingers as wide as we can get them. So you'll see here my fingers are quite wide, okay, versus being tight together. So I've spread out those digits as much as I humanly can. From here, I'm just going to lock out my arms, so my biceps are now going to point towards the camera or across the room. I'm going to do a scapular push-up, so I'm stable through that area. I'm now going to bring myself over top of my fingertips. Okay, I'm leaving my hand completely on the ground. From here, I'm then just going to make some gentle circles or arches from pinky to thumb and through. I'll show you from a profile view. So I've set up, I've locked out, pushed up, lean forward to get a mild stretch, and then I'm going side to side through here. Generally 20 to 30 seconds or kind of 10 rocks side to side is a good position. Okay, so that's palms, fingers facing away. Next up we're going fingers facing out. So now I want my fingertips underneath the edges of my shoulders. The tighter my wrists are together, the more of a stretch it's going to be. You'll see that my fingers are spread nice and wide. I've locked out, done one of those scapular push-ups, and this time I'm going to rock right to left again. Trying to keep my palms on the ground, so I'm really focused on those flexors of the wrist. Okay, and then I can do some circles, clockwise and counterclockwise. Again, we go 10 kind of each direction, and then 10 the other direction. Okay, one more position with those palms down. This time my fingers are going to be facing towards me. So this one I'll show you from the side. So what I'm going to do is actually start my fingers really tight to my hips. I lock out active shoulders, And then I'm going to bring my shoulders towards my fingertips. So I've gone from this position to here, and then I'm going to rock right to left, gently. Try and keep those arms locked out still as you go. Okay. So then from here we're going to go top of the hand to the ground. Again, my fingers are spread out. Push the palms to the ceiling, and I'll lock my arms out. Push up again, and then this time again I'm going right to left. We can do some circles here as well. You've got to be exploratory through these ranges. What works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. I practice this pretty regularly. First time ever doing this, ease into it. You can injure yourself if you do too much at once. If you give a lab rat too much medicine, it can be a bad thing. Okay, so now I'm going to focus on just one hand. I'm going to get that top of the hand to the bottom again, to the ground. I'm going to start away from my fingertips. You can see that I've now changed that angle. I'm going to slide the other one underneath, and I'm going to fold at that first knuckle line. I'm folding, and I'm going to try and get a tight fist as best I can. So I've got to use the other hand to pin those fingers to the ground. Locking out again, I'm going to introduce that stretch. And then I'm going to rock forward and back across that tension, trying to keep the arm locked out. We can make some semicircles around the edges here, kind of figuring out what works best for you. And then same thing would happen on the other side. So I start this side of my wrist through fingertips, I curl up, introduce that stretch, and then go side to side. Okay. Again, first time we're doing this, it can be pretty intense as you go through that area. So, that will generally cover you for things. I like to now revisit this guy. This is going to act as an assessment point as well. So I lock out, lean forward, scan. Oh yeah, look, it's not that bad, yada, yada, yada. So now we can get the golf ball included here. So now I'm going to put that golf ball underneath my palm, and just as I might roll the bottom of my foot, I can roll the bottom of my hand to address some of the fascial layers to here. You can do this before all of the stretching as well, so you roll the forearm and then roll the bottom of the hand. I like to do it now because now I can also stretch as we roll. So I'm going to apply pressure, found a spot, and then I'm going to move my fingers around. I can try and actually lift them up as well. But if you find one that's really junky, you're going to hold that one up there and just make some circles with that finger as you go. And then you would repeat that process through the entire hand. You can do this without the ball, and I find this very handy as well. If I'm at the gym or it's just not around, I haven't brought it with me, then this works for sure. So same idea. Now the one thing you can do without the ball there, I find, is add some traction. So it's hard to tell probably from your angle, but I'm going to now actually lock out that thumb. I'm going to grab a hold of the thumb gently, and I'm going to gently traction or gently pull away from the center of my hand, and then add range of motion through there. You have to be gentle. And then I'll do the same thing with each digit. So I'm going to grab, gently pull, and then stretch or make circles with the fingertip to feel that big stretch. We can not traction it, maybe that's all you need. Traction is always going to lead to a better stretch, a longer stretch, a more thorough stretch. The traction is going to target the joint capsules themselves, kind of relying on those principles that are laid out in fascial stretch therapy. Traction can be a good thing. Yeah, that's what I got for you today. A little bit of a furthering into the adventure of the wrist and forearm and hand mobility. When you're done, you should find that you're a little more hyper aware of your hand. If you did things really well and you go to reevaluate again, you spread out those fingers, lock out, come up, and you glide over top. You may find that you've actually increased that range of motion that you can now get over top of those fingertips. I got a good range improvement there. I didn't show you before and after, but I feel different there for sure. Okay, use your hands for everything. If you're a climber, if you're a desk worker, if you throw or do anything else in life, anytime we're always grabbing, we don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to what's going on in here. And it's really important to do that. So I hope that helps. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.